right, welcome. So this video is the power of fruit. All right, so this one is just going to cover why fruit is so important, in my opinion, why I think it shouldn't be removed from the modern diet, because a lot of people do talk about, well, fruit has a lot of sugar, so why should we eat fruit? So I'm gonna get into why sugars are actually good for you when you get the right source and the right amount, why fruit is so good for your energy levels, and why it's the most essential carbohydrate for all athletes and just people in general. Fruit is going to be your most effective source of carbohydrates. So this video is just going to cover why I think fruit is so important to our diet and why everybody should include enough fruit in their diet. So the first thing I want to cover is why sugar is actually such a deep addiction for most people, right? So sugar itself is an addiction to most because our brains prioritize concentrated macronutrients. So, for example, with fast food, when it's high in sugar and it's high in fats, those are both very essential, very important micronutrients for our bodies. So when we have these concentrated forms of sugars and fats, our animal brain is triggered by that because those are the foods that we would look for in nature, right? So those are the things that we would search for within nature to find the most nutrient dense, most essential foods. So it's actually a good thing, right? The fact that you're addicted to these things is actually a good thing. It's just that in the modern day, we have to be conscious enough to make the right decisions in order to keep ourselves away from getting sucked into eating the wrong forms of sugar and fat, right? Because seed oils are another example, but if you're eating seed oils or you're eating table sugar instead of eating fruits and honey for sugar, and then also eating things like tallow, beef tallow, butter for your fats, the craving is the same. The brain craves them equally, but the difference is what effect it actually has on your body, right? When we have the natural sources, the right sources, well, we actually benefit our body. That craving that our brain has is actually satisfied by the fact we get the nutrients we want. However, if we're eating seed oils or we're eating the wrong kinds of sugar, we're having insulin problems, we're having inflammation problems, right? And so we're causing issues for our body because we don't know the difference. And so that's kind of the key, is we need to know the difference. Sugar itself is actually one of the most essential building blocks in our body. All of our cells are created from sugars, and so we need to have sugars in our diet in order to sustain life. But the amount of sugar is the problem. We don't need to eat that much sugar. We actually just need to eat 2 to 3 pieces of fruit a day, realistically. If you drink juice at all, you can drink a glass of juice here and there. And then honey is another good source. Up to a tablespoon of honey a day is another good source of these sugars. And the benefit of these sugars is that they're concentrated carbohydrates. So our brain craves them because of the fact that they are concentrated forms of carbohydrates. Our body wants to get the most easily absorbed and the most abundant sources of carbohydrates, which are sugars. They're, like I said, concentrated carbohydrates into a single molecule. And then when our body breaks it down, it's easily usable to our body, is the point. These foods are easily converted into energy. Well, natural sugars are easily converted into energy. So therefore, it has the greatest effect on our energy levels. If you need carbs or you're hungry and you need an energy boost before a workout, right? Fruits are actually going to be your best option, or honey, if that's the case, or honey as well. But fruits or honey are actually going to be your best option because just a small amount of it will actually go a very long way. And you'll feel the initial energy boost as soon as you get into any exercise bout. So the next thing is, we're going to be talking about electricity, right? So with food, we actually want to be eating electrical foods, right? Foods that are high in electrical energy. And fruits are actually an example of this. Fruits are electrical, right? So what does that mean? It means that not only do they have carbohydrates and a high amount of carbohydrates in the form of healthy sugars, but they also have electrical energy, which actually charges the nervous system. This is where most of our energy actually comes from, is having a charged and active nervous system. And the electrical energy from fruits actually benefits that system, as well as the breath, and we can get into that in another video, but the breath also charges up the nervous system. So with these two things, if we're breathing good and we're eating enough fruit, this is gonna optimize our nervous system and the amount of nervous energy we have to direct towards anything that we're doing in particular. So with that being said, I think you should start eating fruit now, right? Eat as much as you can, as much as makes sense. I wouldn't be afraid of eating too much fruit because you will know if you were overeating something like fruit. It's the same thing with when you're eating meat and eggs. You don't actually need to overeat these things because they satisfy the craving we have. The craving we have is for nutrients and for energy. And so if we have those two things from the food that we're eating, we don't actually need as much, we don't crave as much. So you satisfy the craving easier, meaning it's very difficult to overeat foods like this, unless you're actually like, you have a problem and you are eating like 10 kiwis a day or whatever. But even then, I wouldn't say that that's the worst thing in the world. Because if you feel like you need to eat 10 kiwis in a day, well, shit, maybe you're nutrient deficient. Maybe you have a vitamin C deficiency, and so you're craving kiwis. But for the most part, you won't actually be able to overeat foods like this, nutrient-dense foods. If you are, you got a problem, but that's something else to deal with, right? And in that case, I'd recommend fasting and resetting your gut and your nervous system, and also resetting your cravings in your mind. But if you are able to control the amount you eat and be conscious of the amount you eat, you can really eat as much fruit as you want, because I personally don't believe that you could ever eat too much fruit, because fruit is very, very filling. It's very satisfying. Not necessarily filling, but it is satisfying. You don't need to eat a lot of it. So I would say start eating fruit, and I would start eating it as much as possible. My recommendations are you just go to the store, get whatever fruits you enjoy, right? Berries, fruits, whatever, like raw fruits. And then basically break it up throughout your day so that you eat fruit as a snack, essentially. You eat it as a snack and you eat it as a side for meals. And with this, you will see a major benefit in your energy levels if you were to replace your normal carbohydrates like rice, potatoes, pasta with fruit instead. So why do I say that athletes need sugar and not carbs, right? So carbohydrates actually get converted into sugars in our bodies, right? So sugars are actually just the ready form of energy, right? They're the ready nutrients for us to take and apply to our bodies in such a way that we can use it as energy, right? So when we eat sugar, and the right kind of sugar. So now that when I say sugar, you have to understand I'm talking about sugar from fruits and honey, nothing more, nothing less. Any table sugar, anything else you can possibly come up with, that isn't what I'm referring to here. So athletes need sugars because sugars are actually the ready form of energy, right? That is the ready form of energy. It's concentrated carbohydrates, right? So that is what we can use in order to actually exercise, train, and sustain high intensity cardio and endurance. So I say athletes need sugar because sugars are actually more effective. We can eat less but get more of a benefit from what we're eating. And when you eat complex carbohydrates, you actually do a disservice to yourself energy-wise because your body has to divert more energy to breaking it down. But fruits, however, are very easy for your body to break down. And so that's why it's essential for athletes, is because athletes need quick energy. And that's key. Quick energy and a lot of it, right? The most efficient form of it. And so that is what fruits are, and hence why they are so important to our diet. So what fruits to eat and how do you eat them, right? I kind of went into this earlier, but I'm going to go in detail now. So what fruits do I recommend eating? Kiwis are one of the most nutrient-dense fruits you can get. They are amazing. Mangoes are amazing. Pineapple, really good. Any berries, really, blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, any juices that you can find that are organic and 100% pure juice, nothing else, nothing, no bullshit, no corn syrups, no nothing like that. That's also a good option. But if you can't find anything like that at your grocery store, go ahead and actually squeeze it yourself. So if you made homemade juice, whether you have a juicer or if you don't and you just squeezed some oranges, you can make juice at home. But if you're gonna drink juice, basically only make sure that it is 100% organic juice and nothing else. Papayas are another great one. Obviously bananas are good. Really any fruit that you can get your hands on is gonna be good. There's not many fruits out there that would be bad, if any, really. So all fruits are good. So really just find ones you like is the main thing. Like find fruits that you actually really enjoy and eat those. And then of course, supplement with some of the more nutrient dense essential fruits. So for example, kiwis are an example of this. Kiwis are very nutrient dense. They're very, very good. So we want to have kiwis in our diet, but they don't have to be the main fruit that we eat just because they're nutrient dense like that. If we eat 1 or 2 kiwis a week, that's actually really good. That'll be a major benefit to us. And other than that, you want to just focus on eating fruit that you really enjoy eating. Another thing I can recommend is honey. If you can get raw honey, raw unfiltered honey is really good. I personally like my whipped honey. It's pretty good. But the point is, you want to keep it under a tablespoon a day, but you can eat up to a tablespoon a day of honey if you prefer. And I prefer that when I'm training a lot, because high intensity cardio obviously burns a lot of carbs, and the honey, I can get it in right before a workout, but I don't have to eat a full meal, and I'll have energy throughout the entire workout, and it's great. So that is a good option as well if you want to add a little bit more in. But then how do you eat them? How do I structure that? So I break my fast every day with fruit. So I have a piece of fruit, maybe some berries or a smoothie every single morning, and I have that with my protein shake. So that's how I break my fast. And then right after that, I do a tablespoon of honey with salt, and that's my pre-workout. And then basically throughout the rest of the day, I have 2 meals that consist of red meat and either eggs or like rice and potatoes or something along those lines. And I'll typically add a fruit in with those meals. And if not, I'll have a piece of fruit or 2 throughout the day as a snack. And so I pretty much eat up to about 3 pieces of fruit, if you wanted to say. Obviously, it's hard to measure that because all fruits are different sizes. And if it's berries, I can't say a piece of fruit, but the equivalent of basically 1 serving of fruit 3 different times a day is how I do it. And based on how you want to structure it, if you're exercising a lot and you need a snack, right? Fruits are the best options for a snack. And if you didn't eat fruit throughout the day, you can just add a piece of fruit in with any of your meals. And that's a good way to go as well. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of all I have for you guys. Just basically just eat fruit. I mean, that's all this video is about, just eat fruit. I mean, this is kind of just a fun idea. I wanted to talk about fruit for a bit. I love fruit personally. I think it's really important for your diet. I think it's essential, honestly. I don't think it's basically going to be the foundation. It's not going to be the main thing. The main thing is like red meat and eggs, but fruit is also very important, and it's cool to look at the actual benefits of fruit. It's cool to look at the science behind fruit and why it's so important for our bodies. But yeah. And I mean, another thing I could go into is they're just nutrient dense. They're one of the most essential nutrient dense foods in our diet. So they're really important to prioritize. But that is all I have for this video. And I do hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, leave a comment down below. Let me know anything you may have learned. And if you want to see more content like this, press subscribe. And you can also check out my Instagram. Link will be in the description. And if you want, my TikTok is also popping right now. So I just started on TikTok a little while back, and it's a little something. I'm turning these videos into shorts. So if you like short form content, which I don't personally recommend, but if you enjoy short form content, you can go check out the TikTok, check out the Instagram. But other than that, that is all I have for this video, and I'm out of here. Peace.